Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Good
Hello,
evening,
gorgeous.
everyone.
Why are you the only one who doesn't look like a catfish due to that show intro?
Because I'm not a
Like
catfish.
all my pictures on there show me with long locks. And then I got here with my hair cut and I'm just like, this is gonna be a catfish show. They gonna feel like they got catfish.
Hey, this is the first show in a long time that they actually get me with a little bit of makeup on, so it is what it is. Hello, hello,
Right.
hello, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great and glorious Thursday, or at least prosperous, or maybe meditative. Um,
Uh
Today's
G.
show is going
Let
to
me
be a
my headphones
little
on.
bit of a lot of everything. Uh, Make sure, as always, like, subscribe, hit the little bell, and make sure you share. Bring a friend over and tell a friend to come through. Got a couple of clips we're going to show you. The first thing we're going to start off with is the hottest topic right now all over the country regarding the Gabby Petito case, and more so regarding the fiance Brian Laundrie. So let's get into that. We're going to watch this clip and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Okay? And two and two.
Today marks 3 weeks since Gabby Petito's fiance, Brian Laundrie, has been missing, according to his parents. His sister Cassie speaking, insisting she has no idea where her brother is.
No, I do not know where Brian is. I'd turn him in.
She also expressed a range of emotions, feeling worried about him, but also angry.
I would tell my brother to just come forward and get us out of this horrible mess.
Monday, Cassie also revealing to protesters staked outside her home that Brian flew home on August 17th, just 5 days after that fight he and Gabby had in Moab, Utah. The attorney for Laundrie's parents confirming in a statement to CNN that Laundrie flew home the 17th and returned to Utah on August 23rd to rejoin Gabby, and that, quote, Brian flew home to obtain some items and empty and close the storage unit to save money as they contemplated extending the road trip. Cassie says she saw Brian during that August 17th trip, but she says the last time she saw her brother was when he went camping with his parents at Fort DeSoto Park on September 6th, and there was no discussion about Gabby.
We just went for a couple of hours and we ate dinner and had s'mores around the campfire and left. And there was nothing peculiar about it. There was no feeling of grand goodbye. There was no nothing.
Today, Gabby's parents and step-parents speaking out on Dr. Phil's show, saying they believe Brian is definitely alive and in hiding.
He's a coward. Anyone that lived in that house is a coward.
According to the police, Brian Laundrie's parents claim they last saw him on September 14th. They reported him missing 3 days later. When asked about her parents' involvement, Cassie told ABC,
I don't know if my parents are involved. I think if they are, then they should come clean.
Cassie says this is tearing her family apart, and it's not easy watching police question her brother and Gabby after a 911 caller reported their fight.
It's definitely painful to see everybody just be upset. It was pretty typical of them to argue and try and take space from each other, but people saying they saw public domestic violence, I've never seen anything like that from either of them.
Can I say something real quick? So I would first all like to say, why is it that every time I don't care who gets mad about it. Every time a white person has to deal with police, regardless of the situation, I can't believe this. They're not like that. Yada, 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 yada. Y'all invented deceit in the public. Y'all invented the very foundation of the police that came into fruition that y'all are acting are so justified aren't justified in the way they're at. You invented it. It's your creation. So I'm just trying to figure out How many sob stories do I have to watch before I just don't care?
Well, here's the thing. Do I know that the police failed her? Yes. Do I know that more energy gets put into missing white women, because I can't even say people, white women, than anyone else? Yes. Um, am I over families? And I've had this own conversation within my family. Stop acting as if you are as omnipotent as a god. You do not see everybody's steps. And one thing I can tell you, even the most volatile couple pulls back when they're around family and close friends. So sitting back going, oh, this is just, they would just need space from each other. Evidently, he needed a whole lot of space because he put space between them, space between the living and the dead. And to say, oh, I don't know if my parents are involved. This woman was missing. And you all decided to go on a camping trip and have s'mores. And nobody said anything about a missing fiance who lived in the house with everybody. And even the daughter, the parents are now saying, oh, we can't even tell her what's going on. Our attorneys advised us not to. Why have you already gotten an attorney? Because if you have not become an accessory after the fact or an accessory during the crime, why do you need an attorney?
Hey, y'all want to know a little, just a little sneak thing? Here's what I feel. If you need an attorney, you're guilty. If you did nothing wrong, you shouldn't need an attorney.
Especially when you
Hold
aren't
on.
a part of the dynamic.
I would like to just finish what I was saying, and that is true. But what I'm saying is, if you did nothing wrong, you shouldn't need an attorney. Also, if you were not a part of the Diamantic, which I'm going to touch, I was getting to that. Why would you need an attorney to tell you to be quiet, to put a muzzle on it? That's what they tell criminals.
Yeah, because if you weren't there to see it and you weren't a part of it and nobody called you about it, what are you being quiet about? That's suspicious. That's weird. And then Landry's father finally showed up when they discovered this campground, and I'm using this term very loosely, saying, oh, he may be there. Why you need to be there? He's not black. There is no risk of Landry being shot on site. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's be real. Let's be real with it. They sent up a drone because previously this man has been able to be naked and alive, survivor, all on his own out in the wilderness for months at a time. And I'm like, bro, you knew your son wasn't there. You knew that was a waste of time and yet another waste of resources. And I'm sorry, I do not want to come across as cold-hearted. I am not. I am a firm advocate for women's rights. I don't want anybody to be missing, exploited, no nothing. But
okay,
here's the caveat.
Go ahead.
You didn't give a damn when they were living in your house, and it was quite clear in all the videos we saw from dash cams and body cams that your son was abusive to this woman. You didn't give a damn. When you originally found out she was missing, you wouldn't even take calls from her family. You didn't give a damn. You ignored their calls. Even when they said, we're going to call the police. This is odd. You went on a family camping trip. You didn't give a damn then. All you're doing is buying more time for your son. And I'm sorry, I'm tired of resources, well-needed resources being wasted on white people that don't even want to help themselves.
Well, I want to touch on. I want to give everybody who's viewing this a lesson. And maybe you've learned this lesson. I know it's typical in the black family, but when you would make a friend when you was a child, who did your mother ask to speak to?
Parents.
And if your mother didn't like the parents, did you
You can hang
did you
out.
ha- exactly. Okay, so
And even if they did get along, and if that child came over and that child started acting a fool, that was your one and only. We didn't call them dates back then, but that was gonna be your one and only play date. And trust and believe that play date was about to be cut short.
that part. So I want to analyze that. And the reason why I want to analyze that is because a lot of people don't realize that when you go after the parent of someone who's trying to protect someone like this, there's reasons why certain cultures will investigate the parents before they get to know the child. Because the lessons, it's the same reason why we say the parents need to do better for the children when it comes to racism, misogyny, sexism, all that other things. Because the parents is the one who's teaching the main lessons, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not just the teacher at school. The teacher
I,
gets them for 8 hours a day. Okay? The parents got to deal with them every other time. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, depending on what type of school you go to. So, at the end of the day, me personally, if my child were to come up to me and say that they got a little play date, I'd be like, who the mama? I just call her Mrs. Whatever. Insert name. Um, okay. Well, I'm gonna talk to her mama, and then we'll see if y'all can play.
and
But here's
depending
the
on where
deal.
they lived, and depending on where they lived in town, sometimes a phone call didn't suffice. If they lived on a
So
certain
I
side
gotta
of
go
town,
over there. Yeah, I gotta go over there and investigate. I gotta drop you off and walk in the house with you. So,
and I
and
might just be down the block the whole time you're playing.
to go back to the reason why I'm bringing this up is because some people may not understand why we're coming at the mother. You taught this child. Now he got fucked up as he got older. I get that. But where did you lose this child? Because someone that's that far gone, they started young, boo boo.
Sweetheart, they never had that child. This is why, and you and I have had this conversation before, and I've said this before,
Mm.
and I think maybe a handful of times publicly, but let me be clear. There's a difference between a child that has been raised and a child that has been housed. And y'all know I always bring it straight, no chaser. Too many Anglo-Saxon children are housed and not raised. These are the children that the parents are so worried about their reputation that they will make excuses, they will pull strings, they will sweep things under the rug so that they can keep that good family name intact, while everybody in the neighborhood, actually everybody in the city, already knows that Lil Johnny is a holy Roman terror. But
And
on
that brings me to
paper, he looks good.
my point. Now y'all gonna judge me for this. I don't care. Because I would do it again tomorrow. Every boyfriend I've had within the last 5 years, I did a background check on.
Okay.
My current fiance, I did a background check on him before he even reached my house. Because I gotta know, am I inviting a serial killer to my house? Am I inviting someone who drinks too often? Because that's one of my triggers. Am I inviting someone who is a reckless driver? I just got a pretty new baby. If you wreck my shit, I'm going. You know what I mean?
Oh, your new baby is 60.
Thank
We
you.
are talking about a car. Don't y'all go back and think that we're talking about a vehicle.
I'm gonna let them think what they want to think in it, and I don't care.
No, I don't need
Anyways.
nobody to think that we over here having R. Kelly moments.
Oh, wait. If you ever look at me like that, never mind. You know what?
Oh,
The fact
we gonna get
we
to,
got too off. We got too off talk. Off
no, we're
the
gonna
reason.
get to that later because both of us were in a IG live last night, and we're gonna discuss that. But we're gonna get to that towards the end of the show.
Okay, okay. But what I really, 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 really want to say is there are too many instances when the parent could have done something in a child's life that could have put them on a different measure. And when you confuse it with, it could have been talking, doesn't have to be intimacy. It could have been intimacy. It could have been paying attention. So that's why me personally, I don't know who I'm inviting into my home to talk to my child. Or when like this is when I do background checks. That's my way of doing what my grandmother used to do. My grandmother raised me. She's like, let me talk to his mama. I want to know if she crazy as hell. She got respect for her elders, that kind of stuff.
Well, you need to know who's actually out here raising their children and who just wants to make excuses for their children.
That part.
And right now, we have a lot of people in our government that it is very clear, even our current administration, that their parents made excuses for them. Not quite sure what I'm talking about. Afghani refugees were flown over here and given attention. Let's take a look at how Haitian migrants are being treated.
Now to an NBC News exclusive on the situation last month that left thousands of Haitian migrants camped out beneath the Texas bridge. According to 3 officials, the U.S. knew back in July that thousands of Haitians were heading to the border. But they say a failure to share intelligence, along with internal disagreements over deportations, and authorities were ill-equipped to deal with the situation. NBC News Justice correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now with more on this. So, Julia, first, let's give everyone a little background. These migrants came from a country that's going from crisis to crisis. Remind us how and why tens of thousands of Haitian migrants converged on the border last month and what happened to them.
Well, what's interesting about this group, Joe, is that they actually left Haiti, many cases years ago, many after the 2010 earthquake, and have been living in countries like Chile and Brazil and in other places in Central America. And they started to congregate to migrate north for a number of reasons. A lot of those countries there have been devastated economically and by the pandemic, and they started to see this as their chance to come to the United States. Now, the U.S., we've now learned, had that intelligence in July, and there were discussions in DHS about what to do about this group. Should they start ramping up deportations of Haitians already in the United States back to Haiti as a kind of deterrent? It was ultimately decided not to do that, especially after the August 14th earthquake, a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, riled the country, and they decided not to start deportations. Now, looking back at it, there's a review going on inside DHS. They're looking back and saying, look, maybe there were some decisions made along the way, also including intelligence sharing that could have prevented this mass number of people showing up all at once.
Yeah, Julia, let's talk more about your reporting. I mean, what do the officials you spoke with say was going on behind the scenes in the lead up to these events?
Well, it's interesting, Joe, not just looking back, but looking forward. So there seems to be a split within the administration over how to handle immigration. They want to be different from Trump. They obviously don't want to be nearly as draconian and harsh on immigrants as he was. But they also need to have some way to enforce the border when you're looking at people crossing in numbers not seen in 2 decades. So there was this dispute in July where they said, let's start ramping up deportations. If we can just deport 50 Haitians a day, that's enough to keep us from having to deport where we are now, 7,000 Haitians in under 2 weeks. So those were discussions. But ultimately, the more progressive side of that argument won, Joe, and they decided not to do that. And they halted deportations after the earthquake. Now we know they definitely ramped those back up after so many showed up in Del Rio. The intelligence, though, Joe, even though they said that they knew some people were coming, they said they had no idea that they would see 28,000 plus Haitian migrants arriving in one location, that being under that bridge in Del Rio, Texas. And that's something they want to do better going forward, too, to try to get more intelligence, oftentimes from getting inside the cartels, figuring out what their messaging strategy is, and trying to get resources to a location that might be overwhelmed like this in the future.
All right. And you can see more of Julia's exclusive reporting on NBCnews.com. Julia, as always, thank you.
Now, let me put some things in context for you. We ended up with all of these Black people under a bridge. Black people that this country, the United States, has had a grudge against, and the world has had a grudge against since they fought for and were able to obtain their freedom, their emancipation from freedom. But they suffered an earthquake, a hurricane, after not fully recovering from the last hurricane, and the assassination of their president. There's tyranny going on. Same type of tyranny that is going on in Afghanistan. But Afghani refugees and migrants were flown in and evacuated on planes. And this is why the late, great Paul Mooney kept telling us there's only one complexion for protection. But your thoughts?
I want to take y'all back to about 1939. I believe it was 1939. I'm not really sure. I think it was either 1941 or like my grandmother was just born around that time. Pearl Harbor happened. And we had Japanese Americans here. Japanese Americans. Keyword Americans. And Taz, I'm going to point it back to you. What happened to those Japanese Americans? What kind of places were they put in? Because I'm very sure they had homes.
The United States tried to give it a better sounding name, but it was basically concentration camps. They put all Asian Americans, Japanese or not, because what white person in the United States actually differentiates, what part of Asia you're from, what part of Africa you're from. They don't care. They don't even care that they took three whole countries, and forced them together into one country and cut off the legs of one country, and is mad because their citizens want to come back over. But they stripped these people no different than the Nazis stripped Jewish people. They were stripped from their homes, stripped from their bank accounts, stripped from everything, and put into camps. And they thought that was preemptive, which it was not.
To stay on target, how long did it take those Americans to get back their stuff?
Some still haven't.
Okay, so
I know there are people who try to act like they got everything back, but truth be truth, some still haven't.
I want to preface what I'm saying by saying to any Japanese American or person of Japanese descent that I mean no disrespect, and I am not trying to get to how, like, what your family or your ancestors have been through, and make that an example for what Black people or people of Haiti are going through. What I'm saying is that the cold hard truth, and I say this over and over again, I teach it to as a practitioner, I teach it to baby witches, I teach it to my parents, I teach it to my family. If you do not learn learn from the lessons of history, you are doomed to walk the earth, reliving them over and over again. And that was going on 80 years ago, right?
Well, here's the thing. Pearl Harbor was 1941. We don't even have to look that far back in history. Let's be real. Look back to the Trump administration. And before you all go, oh my God, Taz, this is the Biden administration. Are you really going to compare
Hold,
it to the
hold
Trump
up, wait a minute.
administration? Yes, I am.
I
Because
agree.
remember when but hold on. Remember when we had that caravan of darker Hispanic and Latinx people walking to the border, hundreds of thousands of miles, and were stopped. Their babies were caged. We're still trying to find over 500 babies that were taken from their families. There were even more children that were illegally adopted off to white parents throughout the United States that probably aren't even still in the United States. I don't know. It's just my speculation. And now there was preparation. We knew that this was a country that would be in need. You cannot say this is the land of the free, home of the brave, and on your Statue of Liberty say, give me your worn, your tattered, and your wretched. And when people become worn, tattered, and wretched, come here for solace. You use colorism to decide whether or not you let them in. Because they're so worried about a border wall and Black migrants coming in. But the 50,000, well, actually, it's more than 50,000 Irish illegal immigrants that have been in this country that flew in, you don't care about.
Hold on.
Hundreds of thousands of illegal Canadians that are in the United States right now that probably walked across the border for the most part, you don't care about. You don't care about the Swedish that are illegal that flew in. Hell, you don't even care about the illegal Cubans that came in on Freightliners because they will still identify as white on the census. And as long as you have the numbers for the statistics, that's what you care about.
I would like to actually, you're proving my point, because every different era has each and every one of those groups. The 1920s, what were indentured servants? I might have the time. I might have the timeline.
You're thinking about when the Italians and the Irish, more so the Irish, began to revolt against Black people, and then that's when they started to identify as indigenously white.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Well,
I'm talking about.
That's what happened.
Okay, my bad. I had the wrong era. That's what I was saying. But what my point was, every era, whether it's in the 1800s, the 1900s, or even in the 2000s of now, there has been a repeat of history.
Yeah, you're going to continue to repeat history until you learn history and accept history and change it.
Exactly. So that is why I was saying, no matter what, until everyone learns history, accepts history, and decides to change it, we're going to be going through this.
And it's not even a global thing.
And I really want to finish what I was saying. I really want to make sure people understand this. If you make your existence on Earth a constant battle to learn a lesson, whether you believe in heaven, reincarnation, or just nothing afterwards, your soul will repeat these lessons over and over again until you learn them.
Yeah, but you don't want the soul of your descendants to reach there before they're supposed to. And the one country on this planet that is not consistently repeating its own history is Germany. And just to segue, right now, this is the headline. 100-year-old ex-Nazi death camp guard goes on trial in Germany. This is there are two trials going on consecutively. One with a 96-year-old secretary and one with an ex-death guard. They teach the unwhitewashed, true, unmitigated history of their past. So everybody understands how wrong it was, how wrong it is, so that it is not repeated. And they are still actively prosecuting people. In the United States, the generals, the government of the Confederacy who committed treason were never prosecuted, never truly imprisoned, no nothing. And the United States do mostly to the work of the Daughters of the Confederacy and a few other groups, like the female version of the KKK. Y'all didn't think that existed? Yeah, it does. Erected statues, and not just erected statues. They implemented school curriculums and guidebooks, and to this day they have a stronghold on textbooks. That's why you keep hearing the same microaggressions, the same racial tropes, the same stereotypes, because it hasn't been learned to be dispelled. That's why they're terrified of critical race theory being taught.
Well, here's my deal. I've heard critical race theory, and please let me finish when I'll let you know. I've heard people who are mostly albino orangutans say that critical race theory is a woke perversion of education. And I have a serious question for those people, and anyone who can answer this, you're invited as well. Why do you think you were ever educated to know the truth if those materials were altered to begin with when they were given to you? If you're taught altered truth, you were taught a lie. So how could you have been educated?
They know they haven't been educated. They know that they haven't. They know that everything is a lie. They're trying to protect the lie. These are the same people who flipped the map of the world upside down to put their country of origin at the top, to make it seem as if they were at the top of the food chain, which is basic psychology. They also tried to make it seem like they did all these things and brought all these things to civilization. Just like the worst of the worst to me are the evangelical missionary Christians. They go, we must go to the continent of Africa. We must teach them this. Ever heard of the Church of Ethiopia? You're literally going to parts of the world that are noted in the Bible. Excuse me. These people knew about Jesus before you did. They shook hands with Jesus. They broke bread with Jesus. What are you going to teach them about Jesus?
Let's go.
You don't hear about missionary Islamic people. You don't hear about missionary Jewish people, because they understand that while living in the United States, and United States education, United States religious systems are completely bastardized and whitewashed. Everyone else realized everything that they got, for the most part. I'm excluding Native Americans and their culture and things like that, and Mexican Americans, because part of Mexico was originally the United States.
Can we be real?
Realizes that everything else that they got came from outside of this country. You can't teach the originators your bastardized, homogenized, watered down, whitewashed, as if Mark Twain, aka Samuel Clemens, wrote it himself, picket fence of events.
Okay, so I'm just gonna be real. I'm gonna give the viewer some homework. I would like y'all to do this because I just had a brilliant idea. I think it would be actually something that would be better for all of us. And I think it would be, and if you're an indigenous person, let me know if I'm overstepping. I think it's time we stop calling them Native Americans or Indigenous Americans and start calling them from by their tribe name. Because you can literally find out the information up on the internet
But
and
you
how you
can't
could do.
find it as you see someone, or as you encounter someone. And we've had this conversation previously on
Oh, okay.
indigenous roundtables. There are
Okay.
some that prefer to be called Native Americans. There are some that prefer to be called indigenous until they make it known to you what tribe they are from. Because you can't look at a person, just like you can't look at a Chinese person and tell what their native language is. You don't know if they speak Cantonese or not. You can't look at a Korean person and tell if they came from North Korea or South Korea.
No, you can't.
And it's the same thing. Looking at an indigenous person or a Native American person, you can't tell. The best thing that you can do is ask them. No different than you should ask someone what their pronouns are. What do you prefer? If they say, you know what, I prefer to be referred to as Navajo. Okay. Or they may say, I prefer to be referred to as indigenous. Okay. I've done shows where half the panel wanted to be called native, half the panel wanted to be called indigenous. And the ones on the panel that wanted to be called indigenous is because they're indigenous to the entirety of North America. They have family members and tribe members running from Canada all the way down to Mexico, and their
Mm-hmm.
treaties have been disrespected. There are others that are like, oh, you can just call me Native American because they have tribes that have been predominantly contained to the United States of America. So they're cool with that. There are other people who have different reasons for identifying, but you can't look at someone. If someone tells you, hey, all my life, all my mama's life, all my grandma's life, all my great grandma's life, we lived in this particular spot. Yes, you can research that, and more than likely, you can pinpoint the tribe that they are from. But like I have a friend whose tribe is actually right now predominantly in Maine. She lives in the same state that I do. If I were to research her, I could run the risk of being disrespectful because I would associate her with the wrong tribe.
Um.
Oh, and side note, there is an update to my link tree. If you want more information about MMIW, how to help MMIW, how to donate, how to get involved, and not just donating money, but there are different devices, different tools that you can actually purchase and send in that they can give to, especially Indigenous women and young girls, to help them stay safe and protected, and to be able to alert their authorities. Uh, it is in my link tree. Go and check that out. And do not forget, this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And there are new links in the link tree regarding that as well. Go ahead, Dion.
I would also like to bring up is something that I shared with you, I believe, earlier this week. So in my state, the police feel like they are going to get sneaky on everybody. Y'all ready for this? They are going to, they feel like it's okay to ride around with truck drivers and look in and see if you're texting or talking on your phone while you're driving. Now, here's my thing with this. I've
Well,
always kind of felt.
phone up to
Let
your
me.
ear talking on your phone. Let's be clear.
Yes. I've always kind of felt that destructive driving was dangerous to not only yourself and others. I get that. But if you gotta get sneaky to catch somebody doing it, at this point, something makes me feel like you've never actually caught somebody doing it.
And see, my thing is, I'm with you. And we have a mutual friend who almost lost their life because of a distracted driver who hit them. I am glad we did not lose that mutual friend.
Right.
And this was a while back. They are recovered at this point. But here's my thing. In various states that I've lived in my life, it has been illegal for cops to be in a driveway or have their headlights off and pull you over, like to try to trap you. You can't do that. Like where I live now, if a cop comes up and they're not in full uniform, like hat on, if it's cold, jacket, like all that, like if they're not in full uniform, they can't do anything to you. So I implore people, learn the laws of your state. Do not sign a ticket if you don't have to. And if you're melanated, we know that you're gonna have to sign that ticket. But when you go in, print off the law and present it to the judge, because the judge will let it fly because they expect you to be ignorant. Because something tells me this ain't exactly legal. Because if it was, because when we talked about it, you sent me an article and there was a video attached to the article, if I'm remembering correctly. I watched the video and then I read the article, and then you know me, I had to go down the rabbit hole. Sometimes I wish I didn't go down the rabbit hole, but this is one time I am happy. I thought about something and I called a couple of people that I know work in law enforcement. And they said, if that's the case, we can rent trucks. We can rent Penske trucks. We do it for stings. And I'm just saying Penske. It's not like that's exclusively what they use. So don't be like, oh, I see a Penske truck, it's a sting. No. I'm just using the example that they gave me because I think a Penske truck was going down their street as they were talking to me. They're like, we can rent trucks. And we can put 2 cops in, one to drive the truck and one for us to take the information, and it gives us the same height differential. The fact that they used an outside trucking company, everyone I spoke to was like, that gives me pause. Is this legal? I couldn't find any legal precedent in that particular state for it. But this particular week, I didn't have a whole lot of time to do my normal rabbit hole for it. So I do admit that. I can give you all a follow-up next week if you want to, because I'll have a little bit of time this weekend to do that.
I already did it.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Okay, so long story short, there are provisions in the state that I live in that allow the cops to get creative with their takedown of anything of illegal activity. There's provisions in the code of my state. So that means, but, I'm just gonna let y'all know. Most people in my state already think truck drivers work with the police anyway. Because there's something that most of us know that they don't know. We know. There is a wavelength in the computer radio that can match up with a truck driver. We know y'all can communicate. Those who don't act like they know when they're doing stupid shit, that's their fault. I'm just gonna be honest with it.
Heck, y'all ever notice that if you speed past a truck driver, all of a sudden a cop pops out of nowhere to pull you over?
It's because they have a safe lane link, boo-boo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And it's the same in most states. Some states don't have the same wavelength. They got it purposely taken off.
See, look.
My stepdad was a truck driver. I know. See my point?
And I had a good friend who drove a fuel truck. Actually, everybody in his family drove trucks. And I'm so mad. I broke a phone, and it was while I was still raising the kids. It was during the broke phase of my life. So it took a little minute for me to replace the phone, but I had a house phone. but he only had my cell phone and we lost communication. But I did truly appreciate the fact that he would allow me to pick his brain, and so did his mom, his dad. Like, when I say the whole family drove trucks, and they said yes, and they would get offered stuff. I'm going to say stuff because it wasn't always money, but I don't want a community guidelines violation or anything else. So, and we'll just say stuff to report on people. And he even told me, he was like, I know you don't drive the highway that much unless you're, legitimately traveling, but pay attention to these things. If you see a truck or whatever, blase skip. And this is what pissed me off and hurt me to my core for many, many years. Now, I was hurt not just by truck drivers and cops, but also by just regular citizens in the same neighborhood that I lived at years ago. And this is only the second time I've said this on social media. If you want to troll back through my Facebook page, you will see it. I was sitting at a red light. There was like I shouldn't say was, the place does still exist. There's like this, best way I can say it, it's like a hot dog chili stand. My kids were all off at sleepovers.
That sounds good.
It is. And like 4 really good family friends work there. And I was like, oh, Miss such and such is working there tonight. The kids aren't here. I'm going to go get me some chili cheese fries. And I'm thinking about it. I get there. I'm sitting at the red light. I came up my street, down another, like a short street, pulled onto the main street. I'm at the red light. All I got to do is bust a left. I'm right there, pull into their parking lot, right? At the stoplight, a truck comes barreling off because there was a highway off ramp. But by the time they got off the off ramp, there was like a stretch of road where you're supposed to be able to slow down. He comes barreling and cuts too quick and hits my car. Now, as cops are coming, of course, they can see his truck from that side of the road. He doesn't tell them that I'm over there. He had alerted his company. They're on the same wavelength. So the cop should have known my car was on the other side, right? Other people are driving right around, driving past, not saying anything about me being there. Airbag has deployed. And a lot of people would go, well, thank God the airbag deployed. I am not a large woman. Dion can tell you, I am not a large woman. I am sitting there hurting. It is hurting to breathe because of the impact. I am partially deaf in one ear because when the impact came, I braced to turn my face away from the glass. Where do you think the impact and the air from the airbag went?
So a little metric be out, a little metric system for a little car stuff for you guys, just so you can just rev it over in your head. When the air hits, when the airbag deploys, it's not only shooting out just the airbag, it's releasing the thing that keeps the airbag out of it. Sometimes the case over the airbag will hit someone.
Oh, the part that
yes. It's like the thing that's
the steering
out of the dash or out of the steering wheel. Yes.
That top part came, I don't know how it came apart, but for the longest, it looked like, like when you have on a fitted cap and you didn't get the right size and you done had it on all day and you got that mark. Well, mine wasn't just a mark. For a while, it was a dent. And then because I had side airbags, and I will never get another car with side airbags, for me, for my size, safety measures and safety standards are according to men, grown ass men of a certain height and certain weight. I got hit from the front, hit from the side. The passenger stuff popped out. So even when I went over, I'm like, boom, 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 boom. My nose is bleeding, everything. When I tell you, I sat there for over an hour, then had to go to the hospital, finally got released from the hospital because I'm like, I feel like death. And if I'm going to die, I'm going to die comfortable in my bed. Am I saying I was right or rational? No.
You was wrong as hell.
But the way that I felt and the way they were treating me in the hospital, and we can talk about that on another day, I didn't want to be there. I did not want to be miserable if those were going to be my final moments. And I had to put a message out on Facebook because my children, even when they were not at home, we would always say goodnight to each other. So I had to put out a message like, please, nobody call me, text me. I cannot hear you. And Dion, you already know my children. You know what they did. They called. And I'm like, I can't hear you. And this is
Very
back
sure
when,
one of them probably showed up.
And it, oh no,
knowing your ass.
they didn't have licenses. They were all minors at this time.
Mm.
But the thing, no, two of my older cousins and a brother showed up. But the thing
Okay.
is, this was back in the time where we had just got past, you got charged per character to text. Like we had just got past there. So everybody wasn't really comfortable texting in complete sentences like we are now. So it's still in shorthand. And imagine having a concussion. You can't hear. You're hopped up on medication and you're not a type of person that generally takes anything. And I'm trying to read stuff and I'm falling over. And my one brother had a key to my house because he lived closest. And he comes in and my oldest son is calling. And I'm like, what? What are you saying? And my brother's like, yeah, she really can't hear you. But the fact that people kept driving past, and a year later, actually, I think it was like 8 months later, I met another truck driver whose father owned a trucking company. And he told me, he said, with the push of the button, they could have alerted, depending on the truck and the company, they could have alerted emergency services that they hit a car. This driver was afraid of the citation that he would get, not afraid that I may have been dead in the car, but a citation. And for those of y'all that don't know, truckers get per diems. His per diem would have covered that ticket. He wouldn't have lost no money out of his actual check.
But if he would have killed her.
And the only reason, you want to know how somebody finally figured out that I was there? At that street that I told you I needed to make a left on, 3 of Daddy's church members lived on that street. They recognized my car because my car wasn't built to have a front license plate. So I had a front license plate at the top. And this is shortly after my mother passed away. And it was one of those, cheeky, cutesy license plates you can get on vacation that I just put in the front. It got knocked and somehow, grace of the ancestors, smashed in between the airbag and the window. And one of them saw it. It was like, yeah.
So I got a question for you. Because now I'm more than invested. Did the police that was given a citation get called over there to you?
When one woman, rest her soul, she transitioned 4 years ago onto the ancestors, she came running out because her window looked out to where I was at. And when she saw that part in my window, she came running out like, you got to get her out. You got to get her out. And I guess she was trying to call my cell phone. I don't remember. She's trying to
verify that it was you, probably.
Yeah, I don't remember my cell phone ringing, but I don't know when I lost hearing. So it could have been ringing 5 seconds after I got hit. I don't know. I'm not going to speak to that. But I remember seeing her run out, waving her hands. And then there was like an exchange between her and an officer. Because at this point, I had a fresh set of acrylics and my acrylics broke. So I kind of jabbed. And if you've never had acrylics and had them break, you don't understand how jagged they are. But when they get jagged, you can. And I was able to kind of pop it. Like it took me a couple times. but I popped it and I could see her, and she pulled one of the cops over, and he came over and was like, "Oh crap, there is a car here." Because like I said, the pictures from the police report originally, you could not see my car. You just saw this truck. And the truck driver wasn't saying anything. So I'm like, so after they hauled your truck away, if I'd have been sitting there like, you was going to go to jail?
Because you was worried about a citation.
But you wasn't worried about manslaughter.
Was he white?
I found out through the insurance and like all the other stuff that I had to go through. Yeah, because you have to put your race on the, well, other people have to put your race on the paperwork. Let me be clear. Because there was paperwork I never filled out.
So basically, you just would have been another black sister killed by America. I said what I said. I don't give a fuck what nobody said what I said.
And after that, remember when I told you Daddy was getting mad at me because of we lived close to each other, but not close enough that I should have been walking. But remember when I told you there was a period of time, like the next summer, where I was walking to his house and he would get mad, like, why did you walk here? I was afraid to make that left turn because the only way to get from my house to Daddy's house was that left turn. If I was going to drive, once I came out of that one street, I would make a left turn going the opposite way.
Okay,
I wouldn't make the right and then the left.
I want to make sure people just get this. And like, people just don't get it sometimes. Don't get me wrong.
No, Geeky, they didn't think let's check around the truck.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, Taz. I still agree with your daddy.
I get it.
But I get it because after a car accident, that can set PTSD in.
Well, also, let me explain to y'all the only path I walked, the path that I drove. It wasn't, because I know sometimes we'll walk a different path than what we drive. This was not a neighborhood that I grew up in. This was not a neighborhood that I was super familiar with. I found out how to get from my dad's house, from my house to my dad's house, because literally one day, because I used to go a whole different way and like all out of the way. But one day I went to go visit one church member, and then it was like, hey, can you take this to such and such? And then I realized along this way, there were a bunch of church members and family members. So it wasn't as if I was walking unsupervised. I was walking to people's houses and I was calling them like, hey, I'm about to walk. I'm passing your house now. Then I'd hang up with them. Hey, I'm going to come up on your house in 2 minutes. Wave at them. So I wasn't exactly alone, because I would walk maybe at the most 6 houses and then I would know the next person. You get what I'm saying? But I get it. I'm a woman, and it wasn't, the neighborhood between mine and my daddy's wasn't the most savory, but hey, I knew a bunch of.
I got a question.
My 20s was colorful.
Well,
oh yeah, look what Geeky said. I had a coworker say to me, I've been in 4 accidents, none were my fault, so it's very yeah.
I'm just curious for people, and these are my final thoughts, because I'm trying to get people to, yeah. My final thoughts for today are: raise your children. Do not let the media, celebrities, or anybody else raise your children. You are responsible. You are responsible for their upbringing. If you choose not to, and then they turn out like the first clip of tonight, that's your fault and that child's fault, in my own opinion. But I said what I said, and I digress. The other thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The other thing that I would like to say is, just to reiterate, history is supposed to be history. Everything in life teaches you a lesson if you pay attention. And if you cannot pay attention, you are doomed to revisit that history in your current and present time. So, the best way to live through life and not to have to relive through life is to pay attention the first time. But then again, not everybody would actually do that. So, anyways, that's my final thoughts.
I completely agree with everything you said. I just want to add one caveat. Stop forcing people to be parents. Everyone is not meant to be a parent. And when you force people into parenthood, that's when you get housed children and abused children. And what do we always say? Hurt people hurt people. And you all need to realize children are people too. That's why I make a point of calling like toddlers tiny humans to remind people that they are human. Because when you hurt them, they're going to go out into the world and hurt other people. And when you just house them, that's what they're going to do. And families, instead of forming cliques and trying to consistently judge each other, how about y'all focus on your household, raising the people in your household, and making sure that you don't have any budding serial killers or serial rapists in there. Instead of not doing what you're supposed to do with the children under your care, but pointing the finger at somebody who's trying to do it.
Stay in your motherfucking lane.
So, as always, thank you, Dion, for joining me. Thank you all for watching. Each one teach one, each one reach one. And we will see you again.
Wait. One last thing.
Okay.
Please share. Share to your Facebook, share to your Twitter, share to your Instagrams. Also, make sure you go through the Taz J list and make sure, and if you haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe and ring that bell, please.
Yes, but please, people can, I don't edit anything. When we end this broadcast, everything that you've seen now, everybody else will see. So if you like the show, share it with people, let them see what you like, and next time bring a friend with you. But yes, today is Thursday. Sorry, it's been a long week. And I got to get off of here and put this brace back on my ankle. But as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. So till the party tomorrow. And the party tomorrow may be remote. I'm not sure. My bestie is coming in town. Another friend wants to, I don't know. So it may be remote. It may not. It may be from the couch. I don't know. But I will say this weekend for my viewers, I do have a surprise for you all this weekend. And I do believe that it will be a pleasant surprise for all. But as always, till next time, bye.
Bye-bye.